I believe I've rarely been as excited and eager for a new product release as I am for this one. This is the Garmin Fenix 8. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I test all kinds of sports watches, smartwatches and fitness trackers, and my two absolute favorite watches so far are the Garmin Fenix 7 Pro and the Epix Pro. And now we have the Garmin Fenix 8, which comes with some exciting new features and improvements. As always, I've tested the watch to the limit. I used it to track all of my runs, cycling, swimming and gym sessions, and just wore it 24/7. In this video I show you everything you need to know about Garmin's new flagship sports watch. So let's not waste any more time and just start. Have fun. The Garmin Fenix 8, as always, comes in different versions. It's worth mentioning that with the previous version, the Fenix 7 Pro, there was also the Epix Pro in parallel, which was essentially the AMOLED version of the Fenix. This Epix series won't be continued for now. Instead, the Fenix 8 now features an AMOLED display, making it the first Fenix watch ever with this display technology. But don't worry, if you prefer the transflective MIP displays, they are not completely gone from the Fenix series, you can still opt for them. I tested the AMOLED version of the watch, but just to clarify, MIP displays do not emit light themselves, they only reflect ambient light. On the other hand, AMOLED displays do emit light, which makes them significantly brighter, more colorful and with higher contrast. In the past, AMOLED displays had some disadvantages and were mostly used in smartwatches rather than sports watches. However, these issues have been gradually resolved, leading more sports watches to adopt this technology now, including Garmin's latest Forerunner series, the Vivo Active and the Venue. And now the Fenix 8 joins the lineup. The AMOLED display of this watch is truly impressive, with a resolution of 454x454 pixels in the two larger versions. But MIP displays also have their advantages, especially in bright sunlight, where they can really shine. For outdoor hikes, for example, I often chose the Fenix 7 Pro over the Epix Pro last year. So it's great that Garmin lets us decide for ourselves if we want the AMOLED version or the MIP version. Both the AMOLED and MIP versions look like typical Fenix watches again. Depending on the model, they are made of stainless steel or titanium and are incredibly robust, high quality and, based on my experiences with the Fenix 6, 7 and 7 Pro, definitely durable as well. However, depending on the exact model, the watch weighs at least 60 grams and up to 100 grams at most, making it heavier than many other sports watches. New features include a side protective element that shields the barometer and built-in microphone, more on that later. The buttons also have a slightly different feel, which takes a bit of getting used to, and this is because they are now completely waterproof, so-called inductive buttons. This allows the Fenix 8 to handle dives up to 40 meters deep, and we'll also talk more about that later. As mentioned, visually not much has changed with the Fenix 8 compared to its predecessor. The flashlight is also back at the top of the case, which you can activate with a double click. I used this feature a lot with the Fenix 7 Pro and definitely wouldn't want to be without it anymore. The flashlight on the Fenix 8 is now even brighter. The Fenix 8 AMOLED is available in 3 different sizes, just like the previous version. This is 43, 47 and 51mm. And I chose the medium-sized 47mm option. Unfortunately, however, the MIP version is only available in the medium 47mm and larger 51mm version. Personally, I would opt for one of these options anyway, but for people with smaller, slimmer wrists, the 43mm MIP version is unfortunately not available. Depending on the case size, the display size also varies. Unlike the Fenix 7 Pro, the 43mm and 47mm versions now have larger displays. The smallest version now features a 1.3-inch display, while the medium and large versions have a 1.4-inch display. So even the 47mm variant I have here has the larger 1.4-inch display, the same as the larger 51mm version. In other words, my Fenix 8 and Fenix 7X Pro are different in size, but the display size is the same. One question you might have is, what about solar? This has always been a key feature of the Fenix watches in recent versions, as the solar technology extends battery life. Unfortunately, no solution has been developed yet for using AMOLED and solar at the same time, but if you opt for the MIP version, you get the solar lens, and the solar lens is a bit wider than for the Fenix 7 Pro as well, because the bezel has become a bit narrower. Previously, an additional solar charging lens was placed over the display itself, but that's now gone, which means the MIP display's readability has improved compared to its predecessor. And still, the solar lens on this watch is now even more effective, further enhancing battery life, and that brings us to the next topic. Battery life has always been one of the main selling points for Garmin's Fenix watches, and the Fenix 8 continues to offer a very impressive battery life. However, this varies from model to model and across different usage scenarios. This table provides an overview of all the battery specifications from Garmin. I won't go into all the details, but the runtimes have slightly improved compared to the Fenix 7 Pro, though this comparison only applies to the MIP versions. For example, the 51mm MIP Solar version lasts up to 29 days in smartwatch mode during normal everyday use, or up to 48 days with Solar. Previously, it could last up to 37 days. Garmin Solar estimates are based on 3 hours of outdoor use per day at 50,000 lux. This is easily achievable in the summer, and even on clear winter days you can reach these levels. When using GPS with multiband, the larger MIP version lasts up to 52 hours or 65 hours with Solar. This is significantly better than the 36 or 41 hours of the Fenix 7X Pro. Additionally, there is the maximum battery mode and expedition mode, which can last up to 118 days in optimal conditions. However, you'll need to forgo many measurements, so this is only recommended for extreme cases. But those were only the specs for the MIP version, so what about the AMOLED version? If you think about AMOLED watches, you might think about classic smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Samsung Galaxy Watch, which typically just last 1 to 2 days. Recently, I also tested the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra, which is specifically designed for auto athletes, but this one just manages up to 3 days as well. Garmin does much better in this regard. Despite having an AMOLED display, the larger Fenix 8 model can last up to 29 days in smartwatch mode and even up to 13 days in always-on mode. My medium-sized version lasts 16 days or 7 days in always-on mode. With multiband usage, it can last up to 35 hours and up to 62 hours in the larger version. But the real question is, do all these figures really hold up in practice? Let's just take a look at how the battery life performed during some of my workouts. Like I said, I tested the 47mm AMOLED version. This hike lasted 1 hour and 7 minutes. During that time, I used navigation continuously, scrolled through the watch frequently, and so on. I had multiband GPS activated and the display was set to always on. Essentially, I was using the watch as intensively as possible. The watch lost 7.71% of its battery, which would project to roughly 13 hours of battery life. On a bike ride, the results were similar. I used navigation and all features fully, and the battery drain was 6.67% per hour, giving a projected battery life of 15 hours. This is less than the official specs, but mainly due to continuous navigation. So in another hike without navigation, the watch consumed only 4% per hour, giving a projected battery life of 25 hours. When running, I saw a 4.8% drain per hour, projecting to nearly 21 hours of battery life. During strength training, where GPS, multiband and navigation aren't needed, the watch only lost 2.4% per hour, which would result in about 42 hours of battery life. Overall, in my experience, the battery life is slightly less than the official specs, especially for the workouts, but this depends on hundreds of different factors, especially on how you set up the watch and which features you use. In general, with the 47mm AMOLED version, you should easily get 10 to 12 days of battery life, which is far better than most other AMOLED watches, especially traditional smartwatches. With the larger 51mm MIP version, you could comfortably reach over 20 days with the Fenix 8, especially now during summer. So yeah, all in all, the battery life has improved slightly compared to the Fenix 7 Pro and is still very impressive. Apart from specialized watches for divers, pilots, soldiers and similar groups like the Tactics or Descent watches, the Fenix watches are the Garmin models with the most comprehensive feature set. They offer an incredible amount of sports, health and fitness features as well as many outdoor features, so let's take a closer look at them. First off, you'll notice that the menu structure and design have changed. In recent years, Garmin's interface had become increasingly complex and harder to navigate, but they've made some improvements. Once again, we have these widget overviews that display 3 widgets per screen. The design and color accents of these widgets have been slightly updated, but more importantly, there is more structure now as well, as Garmin has grouped some widgets that fall into the same category into a single widget. For example, under the health section, you'll find all your daily health data, starting with the body battery. This feature has been present on most Garmin watches for many years and shows your body's energy reserves throughout the day, along with the factors that influence this value. Next, there is the sleep analysis, which as usual shows your sleep score and the breakdown of your sleep stages. You'll also get a summary of your last night's sleep and can jump directly into settings or set alarms. In line with this, there is also the sleep coach, which recommends the sleep duration for the upcoming night based on your energy levels, stress, and activities. Additionally, you'll find all other health-related data and statistics under this health section, such as heart rate variability, steps, blood oxygen saturation, and calories burned. You can also add more widgets here, like the health snapshot, which takes a quick 2-minute test to capture all your key health metrics at once. Moving back, under health, there is a training section where you'll find all training related widgets. This includes your training readiness, where similar to the body battery, you'll see all the factors that influence this value as well. And then you'll also see your VO2 max, lactate threshold, or running predictions, as well as a list of your recent activities, along with the hill score and endurance score. The hill score indicates how well trained you are for hill running, while the endurance score is like a cross-sport VO2 max metric. And once again, here you can also add more widgets, such as the training status. These features have been available on previous Garmin watches already, with the only new aspect being the more organized layout. Pressing the top right button again leads directly to activities, but you'll also see general apps like maps, phone, or music further down. The activities section offers hundreds of training profiles, including triathlon or multisport, open water swimming, golf, skiing, and many more, so pretty much everything you'll ever need. Something that's new to the Fenix 8 are the diving modes. Previously, Garmin had the Descent series for this purpose, but now the Fenix 8 includes diving features as well, with the only difference being that this watch supports dives up to 40 meters deep, while the newer Descent models support up to 100 or even 200 meters. However, most divers probably won't go deeper than 40 meters, so that should be perfectly fine. With the Fenix 8, you now have 3 diving profiles: scuba diving, apnea diving, and snorkeling. The watch also automatically starts a diving activity when you're fully underwater, and then you can plan your dives with the watch, and it displays all the relevant diving data. This addition also closes the gap to the Apple Watch Ultra 2, for example, that was introduced last year and also came with specialized diving features. And strength athletes will also get a nice update. Previously, training plans were only available for running and cycling through the app or website, but now there are training plans for strength training as well. You can specify your goals, such as building muscle mass and the equipment you have available, and then you'll be presented with various training plans. You'll see all the details, you can set up the plan, and it will appear on the watch. And once again, animated workouts are available directly on the watch as well, showing you animated cardio, strength, yoga, or Pilates exercises on the display. In terms of training recording, the Fenix 8 comes with Garmin's full suite of training analysis features, so there is really nothing you can't track with this watch. From the basics like distance, pace, and heart rate to advanced metrics like ground contact time, vertical ratio, running power, and more. The live stamina data is also back. This feature shows your short-term and long-term energy reserves during training. More advanced features include Pace Pro for better planning your route and optimal speed, as well as Climb Pro for managing your effort on climbs. During training, there is also a slightly altered design. By default, the touchscreen is disabled, but you can scroll down to activate it, and it will then deactivate again after a few seconds of non-use. In general, there are 3 layers. We have this middle layer, which consists of the usual data fields. Here you can just scroll up and down to change the data fields. Swiping right brings us to the music player, where you can control your music. Speaking of which, the watch also offers 32 GB of internal storage that you can use to load music onto the watch and listen to the music offline. And then swiping left takes you to the settings menu, where you can change the sport mode, adjust settings, and access navigation options. We'll discuss navigation in detail shortly. Overall, I find this menu structure to be a bit more straightforward than before. In conclusion, the Fenix 8 once again includes everything that an athlete or sports enthusiast could wish for in terms of sports and training features. However, compared to the Fenix 7 Pro, there aren't any groundbreaking new features, so apart from the diving functionality, most of the changes are smaller software tweaks rather than new exciting features. Even though the Fenix 8 is primarily an outdoor sports watch, it now includes a few smart features as well. In the past, this was an area where the Fenix watches lacked some functionality. For example, the Garmin Venue 3 offers voice assistants, which were still lacking on the Fenix 7 Pro. Fortunately, this feature has now been added to the new Fenix 8. Of course, this required a built-in microphone and speaker, which is now available for the first time in a Fenix watch. This allows you to use voice assistants on the watch like Siri, Bixby, or the Google Assistant, depending on which one you use on your phone, and here's how it might look like. How is the weather today in New York?
skies in New York, United States today. Daytime temperatures will hover around 24 degrees, with overnight lows around 14.
A new feature is that you can now also use offline voice commands. So for example, for checking the weather you need an internet connection or a connection to your smartphone, but you can now also use offline commands like for example setting a timer, starting or stopping a workout. Start a running activity. This one is certainly a nice new feature, but honestly I've hardly ever used this feature personally because it's just faster to set up a timer manually or start a workout manually than to use the voice assistants. With the microphone and speaker you can now also make calls with the watch. Previously you could accept calls on the Fenix 7, but communication was only possible through connected headphones. Now you can make calls directly with the watch, though the sound quality isn't really great. So in certain situations this might be useful, but again, honestly, I've never really used it apart from this testing scenario, and the same one applies for playing the music. So the watch can play music directly from its built-in speaker, but the quality is not the best and I prefer to use my connected Bluetooth headphones. You can also listen to and record voice messages with the watch, and there is a new dedicated app called Voice Notes. This can be handy if you want to jot down thoughts when you're out and about with just your watch without a smartphone. The watch also provides a few system sounds, such as when you start a workout, and as usual it displays all kinds of notifications that you receive on your smartphone, like WhatsApp messages, emails and so on. You can customize which apps are allowed to send notifications to the watch, and additionally you can use Garmin Pay to make contactless payments with the watch. So overall, the Fenix 8 has closed the gap in smart features that existed to the Garmin Venue 3 for example, and even added some extra functionality with the offline commands. Next, let's talk about one of the key strengths of the Fenix watches in general, GPS and navigation. Like its predecessors, the Fenix 8 is essentially a compact navigation system offering complete topographic maps with all the details such as street names, points of interest and more. Unlike many other sports watches, the Fenix 8's maps are also routing capable. This means you can create new routes directly on the watch. If you ever get lost, the watch can calculate new routes for you, or you can navigate to, say, the nearest bakery. Once again, the Fenix 8 includes the round-trip routing feature. Here you can set a specific distance you want to cover, and the watch will suggest different routes that bring you back to your starting point with this distance. This is particularly useful when you're in an unfamiliar area. A new feature here is the dynamic round-trip routing. This means that if you get off your suggested route, the watch can recalculate the route for you. An old but familiar feature is called Up Ahead. This allows you to set specific waypoints along your route, such as restaurants, first aid stations, gas stations or whatever you need, and then during navigation the watch will show you which waypoints are coming up next and how far away they are. The design of the maps has also been slightly updated. You now see a ring around the map that indicates the zoom level or the radius. Previously, as you can see on the Fenix 7 Pro here, this was just a small line. You can also use this icon in the top left corner to orient the map to the north or in the direction you're moving. And you can now change map settings more quickly, so just swipe to the right and here you can switch from the Topo Active map to a basic map, activate ski maps, turn control lines on or off and much more. During your workouts you can also display data fields alongside the map on the same screen. Another outdoor feature worth mentioning is the weather overlays, which we also saw last year. These overlays can be placed on top of the map. You can choose from precipitation, cloud coverage, temperature and wind, and see how these will develop over the next few hours and move across the map. Closely related to navigation is of course the GPS, and unsurprisingly the Fenix 8 is once again equipped with multiband GPS, which is supposed to be even more accurate than GPS, which I could already prove in previous tests. But how accurate is the Fenix 8? On this hike, which took place mostly through forests and farmland, the Fenix 8 performed exceptionally well with no shortcuts on corners, a very good result. Similarly, during this run through the city, the tracking was excellent. Again, no corner cutting, and most importantly, the route didn't cut through buildings, which is a common issue with many other watches. The Fenix 8 stayed accurately on the path I actually ran. But now let's get to the ultimate test, which I conduct in all of my reviews, so if you've been following my videos for a while, this will be familiar to you. For this, I go into the forest and run the exact same narrow trail out and back. So ideally, the recorded outbound and return paths should overlap perfectly. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a perfect result. In some places it looks like I only ran one ray because the outbound and return paths are exactly on top of each other. And actually, overall this is the best result I've seen so far, because previously the Fenix 7 Pro held the top spot and this is even a notch better. So yes, Garmin's GPS accuracy has always been very good according to my experience, and the Fenix 8 has once again confirmed that with flying colors. Accuracy is crucial not only for GPS but also for heart rate monitoring, as this forms the basis for many other calculations. The Fenix 8 uses the same optical heart rate sensor as the Fenix 7 Pro. As always, I recorded all of my workouts with both the watch and a chest strap and then compared the datasets afterward. Here you can see the data from a 1.5 hour hike with the watch data in red and the chest strap data in blue. This will be the case for all the things I show you now. Hiking is generally a relatively easy activity to track and the watch performed very well. There are minimal deviations here and there, but nothing significant. The overall trend is nearly identical and the average heart rate is just one beat off from the chest strap. Next, let's look at running. Again, we see very similar, almost identical results. Some watches struggle with tracking the initial rise or final drop in heart rate, but the Fenix 8 handled it well. The average heart rate differed by only about half a beat per minute from the chest strap. Now here are the results for cycling, and once again there was nothing to complain about. Apart from this small delay at the beginning, both curves are essentially identical, with the average heart rate differing by just one beat per minute from the chest strap. Even while swimming, I was pleasantly surprised. Most watches struggle with swimming because water often gets between the watch and the wrist, and there are generally more wrist movements. This result isn't as perfect as with running or cycling, but it's absolutely usable and much better than most other watches. The watch took a moment to adjust at the beginning, but after that the performance was very good, with the average heart rate only differing by 2 beats per minute from the chest strap. Now onto the ultimate test, strength training. And I wish I could be as enthusiastic about the results here as with the previous tests, but unfortunately the results are not great. Especially at the beginning and again toward the middle of the workout, there were some deviations from the chest strap, showing that the watch, like most others, struggles to match the chest strap's accuracy. In this second strength training workout, the results were slightly better, particularly at the beginning and end, but some heart rate spikes still went undetected. By the way, in all of my tests, only the Apple Watch has provided truly satisfactory results for strength training so far, so yeah, while the Fenix 8 is more accurate than most other watches, it's not quite perfect in this regard. However, this doesn't diminish the fact that the Garmin Fenix 8 was very accurate in all other sports during my tests. So what can we conclude about the new Garmin Fenix 8? To answer that, we first need to consider the price. The cheapest Fenix 8 model costs $1,000 and the price goes up to $1,200. This makes it significantly more expensive than the Fenix 7 Pro was at its release, and yeah, you can no longer get a Fenix 8 for under $1,000. That is a very hefty price tag, but is it justified? And here I am torn. On the one hand, there is no denying that this is an absolute premium sports watch. The Fenix 8 is extremely robust and high quality. The AMOLED display is vibrant, bright and simply beautiful, while the MIP display with solar offers advantages in battery life. The battery life in general is incredible, the feature set is impressive, and both GPS and heart rate accuracy fully convinced me in all of my tests. However, if you already own the Fenix 7, the Fenix 7 Pro or the Epix Pro, I doubt that upgrading is really worth it. Many of the new features are minor software-related tweaks like the new interface. The only two hardware-related updates are the diving features and the addition of a microphone and speaker enabling voice assistants, phone calls and so on. If you don't yet own one of these premium sports watches, are looking for one and most importantly are willing to spend this much money on a sports watch, then the Fenix 8 is undoubtedly an excellent choice. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the new Garmin Fenix 8. If you found this video helpful or interesting, you could really support me and my work here by giving this video a quick thumbs up, and if you don't want to miss any more videos in the future, for example on the Garmin Enduro 3, the Garmin Fenix E, as well as many more videos and comparisons, you should definitely consider subscribing to this channel. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.